Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Project Ozone LIte. This is MegaTrain, and today we are going to be delving into power. So we've got a bunch of Ender IO machinery that we're going to be delving into today, and that's really going to let us get further in the game with some of the materials that we can produce with, like the alloy smelter and things like that. So the first part of this is just making a basic capacitor, or 4 of them more specifically. And we only need 4 for the achievement, but we'll make all 16. So we'll claim that first chest. Now from there we can go a few different directions. We can go up to double layer capacitors. But in fact, if I go back to my recipe book, we don't have what we need for that. We need energetic alloy. To make energetic alloy, we need to actually have an alloy smelter and make it using a few different ingredients. So we've got to go the other direction here, and for that we need power. So the one right above it is a Stirling Generator. That's one way to make power. There are quite a few different methods available to us in this pack. But just a really quick overview here. There are two kinds of power in this mod pack. One is called RF. And so basically anything that talks about either holding RF or consuming RF or anything like that is going to be your basic power. There's wireless RF batteries, all sorts of stuff. There's also GP, which is from a different mod pack and is totally different. So if you have like a solar or lunar panel that gives you GP, that is not compatible with RF. So there are certain cool utilities and flying rings and stuff that actually use GP, so we'll definitely have some use for that later on. But pretty much everything else that we do, we're going to be needing RF. So what is a Stirling Generator and how do we make it? So pretty easy. Some stone bricks, furnace, piston, and a basic gear is just some cobblestone and some sticks. There we go. There's our 8. And there we go, 4 Stirling Generators. So we'll check off that quest. Oops. Claim it. And let me start showing you how this is going to work, what we're going to do with this. So a Stirling Generator really is a furnace that produces RF. So I could stick, some planks in here. To get down to the other machine types, we need a few machine chassis. And let's start out just making 2. I know that we'll definitely need more down the line. Let's grab that achievement. And 2 machines here that we'll be making most of the use of. One is called a Sag Mill, and the other is the alloy smelter. So we'll make both of those and go back to our Sag Mill. There we go. There is our alloy smelter. All right, so what can we do with these things? The first thing that we are going to make use of here is we're going to grab some cable, enhanced energy conduits. So the capacity here, we're going to be able to pipe this directly over into one of our other machines. So if we put down, if you put down your Sag Mill, that can actually start grabbing some of that right away. A Sag Mill basically is a fancy crusher that can do all sorts of cool things. So you can use that to crush cobbled into gravel. We'll be making a lot of use of that. You can't go further than just 1 block away, though. So if I put my alloy smelter down here, it's not going to get any power, even though I've still got plenty of power here in my Stirling Generator. So now we start needing to use some of our conduits. So I picked these up in a reward chest, a loot chest. But let me show you the recipe here. So an enhanced energy conduit is made from Conduit Binder and Energetic Alloy. That's actually sort of an intermediate conduit. If I go down one level, the basic energy conduit is just Binder and Conductive Iron. So we don't have either of those yet. Conductive Iron we need to make in the Alloy Smelter. And Conduit Binder, we're going to make a second here. It's another one of our recipes we can make from gravel and sand and stuff like that. So we've got to connect these things with our energy conduit for this to be able to get some power here. And finally, I can actually put some use to this here. So we can make all sorts of things in an alloy smelter, either by using it as a normal furnace or by using it in smelter mode. So tons and tons of different recipes here that we're not going to go through, but we will be making a few of these things. What we'd like to do next is build a more sustainable solution for power generation here. What we've got so far we'll have to keep feeding lava buckets into, but we've got something that can generate lava, our crucible here. So what we're going to do is actually lay down a more permanent power generation source that uses all of the Stirling generators that we've built. And for that I need to make a bunch more conduit. What I would recommend, there are other people that use different kinds of pipes or transfer pipes that come with from different mod packs. These are from the Mechanism mod pack. I would definitely encourage you, especially if you've not used them before, is to use the Ender Io conduits. So we've got item conduits that we'll be taking advantage of here. We've got energy conduits and fluid conduits. We'll have to delve into a few of the other types later on, but right now we need some fluid conduits to pipe that lava, and to make that we need a bunch of conduit binder. So conduit binder comes from binder composite, which is made from gravel, sand, and clay. So I've gathered a bunch of that, and we're going to smelt this all up, but we're going to actually speed up our smelter a bit here. So if you have not upgraded your furnaces, I would definitely encourage you to do so. Basically, each level is about twice as fast as the prior one, and it really makes a big difference. So you can go from diamond to emerald, and from emerald, you can go to what's called an endist furnace, either using normal ender pearls or friender pearls, which you can get in loot bags. So I actually have some friender pearls from loot bags. And let me show you how stinking fast this thing is. So we'll put our fuel back in and run this through. If you get the opportunity to get all the way up to the next furnace level, which is called the Zenith furnace. Obviously we can't do that right now, but this is crazy fast. So it'll do like a stack in a second. So it's insanely fast. So let's grab some of this as it's coming out here, and we'll make the conduit that we need. So the first conduit we'll take advantage of here is the basic fluid conduit, and for that we need the binder, and we need what's called quite clear glass. There are a lot of glasses in this pack, so and so much of the time many of them will work. So I'd encourage you to look at the very bottom. It says accepts any fused glass. That's really what we're looking for. So how do we get quite clear glass? If I right click that to show, I want to left click that to show how to create it. Unfortunately, there's so many colors that the first time you do that, you almost always get this how to make that color screen, which is annoying. So keep clicking, and eventually you get to a point where you'll see the other smelter types at the top here. So we can either re-smelt normal glass into quite clear glass, or we can just smelt dust straight into quite clear glass. So that's what I'm going to do here. Let me smelt up some dust. I got plenty of that. Oh, that's full. And we'll make some fluid conduit. All right, so I've moved a few things around here. I moved my crucible over to the side here and laid out my Stirling generators. The one more thing that we do need, though, is we need what's called a fluid tank. We'll just pull all this back. So we've got four tanks that we're going to use to hold lava. And we've got binder composite and our quite clear glass, and we'll make some fluid conduits here. The first level fluid conduit is gravity sensitive, so you can't pump uphill with this. Later on, the pressurized and especially the ender fluid conduit have a bit more ability than that, so I have to make sure this is set up properly. Now, we'll be talking a lot more about conduits in this episode, but basically when you connect them to your machinery or your pieces here, you've got to right-click and configure them at that junction point. So we can go in or out. In this case, I just want it extracted. And it's not on by default, so it won't start pumping until you press this button. So I'll make it always active. And then I'll need to make sure that this is able to go in only. So I'll just do insert on all these just so we don't get, backflow or something weird. The idea here is that these are going to help us get lava buckets into here. And they really do it in kind of an interesting way. When you open this, I can certainly right click and pull lava in and out of this and put the bucket directly in there. But what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to say, let me right-click this again. The Ender IO machinery has this Configure IO button. When you click it, it gives you the ability to configure what the sides do. So you can have a side, if I right-click, pull items or fluid or material or whatever, or push, or do both, or do nothing. And in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to point to the side that's touching the furnace here, and I'm going to change that to push-pull. And what will happen is when I actually let me put a bucket in here. Where did I put it? There we go. So it's going to fill it with lava, and it's going to then follow the IO instructions to push that over to this place here. So it comes into here, and it's going to start smelting, and it's now come back. So it's sometimes helpful to configure it on the other side as well. So I can do the same thing here. So to the side pointing back to that tank, I'm going to switch that to push-pull as well. All right, the next thing that we want to make is some capacitor banks. That's our next objective here. That's going to basically operate as a battery to hold the energy. And so you've got a few different levels. You've got a basic, you've got one that's just called Capacitor Bank, and you've got a vibrant. Let's start with the basic one here. Actually, we need a few more basic capacitors, at least 2 to get me up to that point. And then we'll make 4 of those. And so I'm going to lay those down here. So you can just set them on top, but I want to separate them and connect them with my conduits. Just because I like to specify that the power is only coming out of these and not going the other direction. So we'll extract from all those. And now this capacitor bank is pulling power out of all of those generators. So this is where we're going to hook all of our machinery. We could just set them on top. Later on, we'll probably connect them again with different conduits and arrange them in different patterns. But now we can really take off and start to achieve some of the other objectives we have available to us in this category. Oh, let me claim that one. And that is all of these alloys. So there's quite a few, and these are going to be useful in different ways. So Redstone Alloy is going to be made. Oops. From redstone and silicon. To get silicon, we basically Sag Mill sand. So Sag Mill clay or Sag Mill sand, and we get silicon. So we'll throw some stack of sand in there and sag it down. The one thing that actually we're going to take advantage of here is that the Sag Mill has kind of a bonus slot. In the upper right hand corner, you can put either flint, or later on there's a more advanced piece we can put in there. And that's going to increase our output. So it depends on exactly what you're sagging, but some of these will actually help produce more of primary or secondary materials. So we will either get a stack of that, or maybe we'll get even more. All right, we have a lot of achievements going on here. Let me show you what I was able to do. Basically, all of these alloys, which are the achievements that I needed, come from all these ingredients. Redstone and silicon make Redstone Alloy. The only ones of these that are a little bit tricky, pulverized coal, you throw coal into a Sag Mill. The pulsating iron needs an ender pearl, and I did get a few ender pearls in some loot bags. So I have a few of those at least. The solarium requires soul sand, so I had to keep making some of that in my witch water. A little bit later on, we'll be making a more reliable and faster source of that. The dark steel uses obsidian as part of its recipe, and the vibrant alloy actually requires one of the prior ingredients, the energetic alloy, to make vibrant alloy. So vibrant and energetic alloy are pretty important ingredients that we'll be using in lots of different machines. So they're used in some of the higher level capacitors. They're used in some of the higher level energy conduits and different kinds of machines. The vibrant alloy is used to make the octatic capacitors, the highest level capacitors, the highest level energy conduits, those sorts of things, some of the solar panels and stuff like that. So those we'll definitely be making some good use of. The one other thing that we will be making use of here is based on our pulsating iron. So if we actually, let me grab some of my Conduit Binder. And if we take a couple of these and make them into pulsating iron nuggets, we can now make item conduits. So item conduits are one of my favorite mods in the game. That's going to be a much better way for us to keep things moving and to automate stuff. So, you know, the very easiest thing I can do here is I can replace hoppers, but there's a whole lot more that we can do. So let me put some of this stuff away, and we'll actually claim all these loot chests, and I'll hide these away. We'll open them at the end. Let me, and we'll show you what item conduits can do. All right, so a pretty simple use of the conduit here. Let me pull all this extra cobble out. Is just to replace a simple hopper. So just like the fluid conduit, you do have to right-click on these and configure them. So we want to extract from the cobblestone generator and insert into the crucible. So that's going to work just fine. A more interesting use is right now we've got some iron in our smeltery here, and right now we can pull these out manually, and we've got to wait for them to fill up, and we've got to right click to grab the block when it's done. But it's going to be pretty easy for us to simply pull these out automatically. So let's extract that always, extract that always, and we will insert into this chest here. And I've got some extra smeltery related stuff in here, including my book. But as soon as these are ready to go, they're going to pop out and into the chest. So that's going to be really convenient for me. In addition, let me show you another cool trick. We can make something called a Redstone Clock. If I make a torch. And that Redstone Clock, if I stick it up here with a switch on it, will actually basically right-click that for me. Here, let's give it a switch so I can turn it on or off. And I'm going to go up top here. And make sure I can make sure it works with these other ones as well. So now I've basically got an automatic way to keep casting all the ingredients in our smeltery, and that's going to definitely be especially for stuff like my emerald horse armor, which takes a long time to form into blocks. Let's run over here to one of the things that we set up earlier, the barrels that make our dirt. So we've got quite a bit of dirt, but let me show you a nice little trick here. Right here, and I'll lay this conduit along them. So what's really handy about this trick, let me go ahead and throw all of my sawdust in here. I want to extract this, but I want it to only go into the barrels. I don't want it to go into the chest down below. So there might be a couple of ways to do this. First of all, if this was a drawer that only had dirt in it, then it couldn't take sawdust or any of the ingredients that I put in the top. So that would be one way to make sure that the sawdust only went into the barrels. But the other way is to change the color channel. So let's extract on the color green, and we will insert and extract. So if we do an insert on the color green, but extract on the color brown, it will put in the composting material first. So let me go back to in and out. So insert on green and extract on brown. And all I have to do here is make sure that we are inserting, but we're inserting on brown. So the sawdust is going to be fill all these barrels up, and it's going to come back here and insert just the dirt. So this was only in the moment that before I clicked it from green to brown. So some pretty nice tricks that we can do with the conduits. Let's actually go back down to the squid farm down below, and we'll show you one more. Okay, before we go down to the squid farm, we need one more machine, and that is because I would like to make some ender chests. So you have your old-fashioned traditional ender chest, but you can't actually automate that. You can't pipe things into and out of that chest. What you can do, though, is you can pipe things into and out of this ender chest from ender storage. And for this one, I've got obsidian, I've got some ender pearls, I've got wool from my string. What I don't have is blaze rods, but fortunately I can make them with a compressor from blaze powder. So to make a compressor, I've got dark steel. Emerald bits is just comes from emerald, and this machine framework
comes from raw carbon and from a hardened glass. There we go. We've got a machine framework. We can get this into emerald bits. And we just need to combine this here. And we've got a compressor. Let me grab a whole bunch of blaze powder. And we'll combine this up into blaze rods. Now, the only thing that that you need to be careful with here is this compressor will take lots and lots of power if you let it. The capacity of these normal items, 100,000 RF, isn't much, and that's not going to drain out my my capacitor bank here. But I've only got 5 or 6 million total in my capacitor bank, so if I connect this directly, it's going to suck it dry. So we're going to be a little bit more careful here. Let me grab my, where is it? My output. Oops. And we will connect it. It will start working. But what I'm not going to do is allow it infinite. There we go. It's paused. So I just switched to extract, and it's going to hold right there. And 1 million RF is going to be more than plenty for everything I need. All right, so let's craft 2 ender chests. 1 for down there and 1 for up here. We're going to also craft what's called a vacuum hopper. A vacuum hopper is going to absorb material from the surroundings. And that's going to be, basically it's going to automate picking up all the drops from the squid farm. And one more thing, let's make an elevator. There we go. So you basically press the space bar to go up and press your shift key to go down. And that's a much faster way to go. And let's clean up this mess. So we're going to put a vacuum hopper here right in the middle. There we go. It's going to absorb everything. Let's throw all this stuff in there. And then we're going to use our item conduits to route this where we want this to go. Probably could make this a little bit more tidy, but the first place that we want it to go is into our squid chest. Oops, that's not what I wanted. All right, so one thing that I've done here with the drawer is, in addition to my upgrade, I've added what's called a void upgrade. So basically, anything that I attempt to put inside it beyond the capacity, it's just going to get voided and disappeared. So if I right-click this, that disappears and goes away. And the second thing I want to put this in is I want to put it in my ender chest. So the trick here is that you've got to set the priority of which one you want it to go into first. So if I insert into here first, I'm going to set this to a priority 2. And I'll insert into here second with a priority 1. So it'll first void all of the squid, and then it will put all of the loot bags into the ender chest. Now this is still full because I haven't told it that we're going to extract yet. So now we'll extract it, and it'll all start getting pulled out. There we go. We can throw that in there. There's actually some speed upgrades that you can put on this to make it pull out faster that we'll probably be using a little bit later on. Once... Here, let me help this out. I'll pull all the squid ink sacs and void those myself. And there we go. We're getting all of our loot bags automatically without a bunch of extra work. I can go back up to the top and set down my other ender chest. By the way, you can set different color ranges here to have different matching loot ender chests. And now I can come here and pull these out whenever I want. All right, we can't go without opening all of our loot chests. We got quite a few this time. So let's see what we have. Man of Steel, bunch of charms. We will make use of those later. Growth crystals, that's nice. Maybe in a future episode we'll be using those. Nice storage components. More goggles and bow ties. Probably don't need those. Cave spider. Mana lens. I don't know that those will be useful. Resonant upgrade kit. Those are nice. For machines later in the game. Gelid cryothium florbs. A florb is basically a container for liquid. So gelid cryothium actually is a useful liquid. Draconium infused obsidian. I don't know what that's for. Ooh, more storage components. Awesome. RF gauge. I don't think that's a lot of use. Mana steel. More mana steel. Lithium dust. That actually is useful for exactly one thing, and that is making a philosopher's stone. So that is useful. A night vision charm. I don't know that that will be all that much good. But we did get some useful stuff in here. Probably our growth crystal, maybe our gelid cryothium, and certainly our lithium dust if we don't already have one. But we'll take advantage of that later on in the game. Thanks again for joining me. Next time we'll keep going with our achievements.